Hello everyone, this is Jimmy and welcome to episode 16 of Levitated. As we get started today, I want to talk about a small change I made to this pack. I usually don't make gameplay altering changes to the pack, and I don't think this counts as a gameplay altering change, but if you look up here, you notice that I've installed a slightly different version of Applied Energistics. This is what I consider to be the best version of Applied Energistics for Minecraft 1.12. So Trousers edition of Applied Energistics adds a couple relatively small quality of life features, but they're just very nice to have. I'm going to show you a couple of them now, and then I'm sure we'll run into more as we go. So first of all, when you are encoding processing patterns, you'll notice there are a few more buttons here. Let me find a processing pattern. Let's take a look. I don't know, just pick something random. Okay, I need to pick an item that actually has a processing pattern. Come on. No, Certus doesn't have any. Charge Certus? Okay, here. If for whatever reason I wanted to encode this recipe, right? You probably don't. This is not a sensible recipe to encode. But you wanted to bulk it. You wanted to encode 16 or makes these things. Well, there we go. We can do it like this. These buttons just double or triple or add one to each slot. There's very nice things for encoding batch recipes. That's a very convenient thing. Other small changes, say we take this recipe and we want to have multiple copies of it. We can get multiple copies of it. They stack. And for the last one that I think is immediately relevant are some changes to the interface terminal. So first of all, there's this question mark button next to your interface terminal that finds your terminal. We see it there blinking off in the distance. It's not so relevant right now because all of our terminals are in one place, but later on when the base gets a little bit expansive, we probably will want to edit a recipe perhaps modify a machine that's attached to a terminal. Well, how do you find it? Normally you go looking through your entire base, spend 5 minutes getting lost, and eventually find it. Now you just click the find your interface button and it blinks for you. Other changes here include, so this search bar works exactly as it has in basic Applied Energistics. If you search for it, it matches to either the interface name or any output item in the interface. This one matches to input. So now if I'm looking for anything that consumes Fluix dust, I can search that and it matches against these by input. Whereas if I search for Fluix here, it doesn't match against those because Fluix is not part of the output set. There's a hide full button, so that just hides all the molecular assemblers that are filled with items. That's good for when you're inserting new recipes. And lastly, there's this M button, which I think stands for molecular assembler, and that just hides everything that is not a molecular assembler and not a molecular assembler and is full, because that's where you insert most of your recipes, right? It only shows you molecular assemblers and it hides your full ones for you, so you can just drop your recipe in the next available slot. These changes, again, I don't think they're really gameplay changing, but they are huge quality of life. So I've installed this mod. I'll put a link to it in the description to this video. It is not on CurseForge. However, it is compatible with applied. It's compatible with RV6 Stable 7, which is what almost all packs use on 1.12 nowadays. Technically, it's built for OmniFactory. There's a bunch more OmniFactory specific changes in there that aren't relevant here. Changes to like how blocking mode works with GregTech machines, but obviously without GregTech in this pack, that doesn't matter. Cool. So with that out of the way, let's talk about what we're going to do today. I would like to finally start making our Ender.io machine chassis, soul chassis, and the enhanced chassis. So I have one of them pinned here. They're all made in the pressure chamber, and they require something a little bit unique each. The industrial chassis just requires high pressure. That's perhaps easiest of the bunch. Then we have the soul chassis. This requires very high pressure. In terms of inputs, it's basically the same except a slightly different die. And the enhanced chassis requires negative pressure. So let's start by setting up a separate pressure system or a separate pneumatic craft pressure, like pneumatic craft system closer to our applied logistics system that we intend to use for automation. It'll be based on what we already have. It'll have a high pressure side, a low pressure side, yada yada yada. The generator setup is, as I mentioned, almost exactly the same as our old one. Flux compressor generates air from RF, which is supplied wirelessly, pumps it into high pressure capable tubes, and then we have a pressure gauge set to shut it off at, I have it currently set at 19, but there's no reason we can't push it a little bit further and go all the way up to 19.5. And it'll still shut off in time to not explode. It's pretty fast response time. There's a 1 tick delay introduced by the repeater. But as we can see, it shuts off well before it reaches the 20 threshold and is capable of exploding. So this forms the high pressure side of our system, which mostly will just be a bunch of advanced pressure tubes. There's not that many devices in pneumatic craft that are capable of 20 bar, so setting up much of a buffer on 20 bar isn't possible. The only way I can think of doing so is using one or more charging stations, because these both hold 20 bar and can both charge and discharge. So by having a bunch of charging stations with tanks in them, each one can serve as an air battery. But I don't think that'll be necessary. For the low pressure side, then, anytime we have a pressure consuming device, especially if it's a device that needs very close to 5 bar, we will have a regulator that outputs 5 bar. So this is configured with a PCB, advanced PCB, to output exactly 5 bar, and then we plug into it. Here I have a large pressure chamber. So I made the maximum size pressure chamber, the 5x5, for a couple reasons. First of all, the larger pressure chamber gives us more room to actually use to insert and output from. So I have a bunch of interfaces. This means that each recipe, maybe not necessarily each recipe, but we can handle multiple different recipes with one pressure chamber. We still have to be wary about recipe overlaps, although I don't actually know if there's many, even if there's any in pneumatic craft. I mean, I guess we can't necessarily do recipes that compress, like the recipe that makes compressed steel. If we make this in a pressure chamber, we can't do any recipes that use compressed steel in the same one unless we get pretty tricky with redstone control, because we don't know if the compressed steel ingot that's inside is supposed to be an input item or an output item. So we'll probably eventually need 2 pressure chambers. But aside from that one, actually, let's just take a quick look. Are there any recipe overlaps besides that one I care about? I'm not going to ever do enchant via... I guess we could, if we compress our steel in block form, nothing uses compressed steel in a block form. So even that's not a meaningful recipe overlap. We can just compress our steel in block form. Yeah, so I guess we can do everything in one pressure chamber. Nifty. But anyways, as you can see now, our pressure chamber is up to 4.99 psi or bar. It'll eventually reach 5, but there we go. It's at 5 bar, but it's just on the safe side of 5 bar. You know, we can go to 5.0, not 5.01. And that's where we stand right now. 5.0. So next up, I want to hook up the way of importing and exporting items. What I'm going to do is, on this filter here, do you accept ghost items by chance? You don't. That's annoying. What I'm going to do is use this top one, I think, for like the top set for manual use, the bottom set for to hook into applied logistics. I've added some of the recipes for the things that are crafted in the pressure chamber. So these are the Ender IO machine chassis. And now if we look here in the interface terminal, we see them here. However, it's labeled chest. That's because that's the name of the inventory it's pushing into. By default, it labels it the name of the inventory. However, if you rename your interface, you can get it to display the name of the interface on the interface terminal. Someone in one of my streams was very insistent that you can click with the Certus Quartz cutting knife, or I tried both cutting knives, to rename the interfaces, but I can't find a way to do it. Like, regular right click doesn't work. Shift right click pulls up this menu, which is used for the name presses. So if ever you find yourself wanting to make a name press, you shift right click a knife, put an iron ingot in there, name it, and then you can use this to rename any item. However, I don't think you can just use this to rename your interface. So anyways, the way you name your interface is literally to pick it up, name it in in an anvil or similar. So this I'll call the pressure chamber, spelled correctly, of course. And let's get rid of that. Put that Hello? Put that back there and put our recipes in. So now if I order chassis, let's start with the I can't do the enhanced one yet because I think I can't make the enhanced die. So let's start with the industrial. I still have to make the industrial die, but the industrial die is just a mix of stuff that I think we should have no problem getting. Organic brown. I think I've actually made a lot of this stuff on accident or perhaps on purpose before in the Alloy Smelter. Let's just see. Can I make a few of these? Oh, that's the wrong die. Let's try making this die instead. Let's try that again. So this time I actually put in the dye recipe. That should cause the ingredients to get dumped into here. What I want to do is configure you to always export. We don't need to filter the input. Just whatever goes into this chest can just be inputted. In fact, to speed things up a little bit, perhaps we could use all three of the inputs. Because again, we don't need to filter input. We just have to input everything in that chest. So by using all three, we get to do things a little bit quicker. And I like speed. All right, I think, do these, have I checked, do these take upgrades? Speed upgrade. Yeah. So we even put a few speed upgrades in each. Beautiful. Anyways, that dumps the items inside. If we look... Oh, no, it would have dumped the items inside if I had these properly configured. However, I have my outputs configured to withdraw every item. So, let's switch these to name begins with ASDF, so none of them do any work. And then what I want is, once all the items go inside, we have that chassis. I want to configure one of these to extract it. Put that back there just so it doesn't... the empty set matches everything, whereas basically the empty set functions as a empty blacklist, whereas any items in there makes it function as a whitelist. So now that we've made one... Oh, have we not made one? Where'd it go? Cassie. Are you getting put into here? What? These are all interfaces. You can't send items from an interface to an interface. Something weird's happening. I'm not quite sure. Like the item is bouncing. Hold on. So it's in this interface. It gets extracted. These are all at exporting items mode, but it's somehow ending up in the wrong. It's still here. Right? It gets extracted. It's not getting put into any of this side. What's happening? Okay, let's just turn you off as well. I wanted to put it into the ME interface. Is that what it's doing now? No, it's still opening and closing doors for some reason. What? Alright, forget it. We're only going to use the bottom interface for automation, so the top ones I just have to output into a chest. So anyways, we can switch this one. I just needed a copy of the item so I could set the filter with it. Filter out items for this, dump that into there. That should mark the craft as completed. And now when I order additional chassis, in fact, order the other 5 because we make dyes in batches of 6. The ingredients get dumped into here. They get inserted into the thing where they get crafted. Then the final product gets pulled out from here. Give you my last speed upgrade. Put into the ME interface. Marks the craft as done. And we have industrial chassis. With these, we can make real machines. Ooh. But before we do that, let's also set up the negative air pressure chamber for the... Was it soul that needs... No, soul is high pressure. So we need a negative air pressure one for enhanced. So I guess the enhanced recipe can't go in here anyways. The trick to getting a negative pressure chamber, it's a trap an enderman in it. We can look at him too. He can't get mad at us. He's trapped in a pressure chamber. I didn't intentionally trap him in there. He volunteered. So anyways, the actual trick is to use a vacuum pump. And this says when pressure is applied at the plus side, negative pressure will be applied to the minus side. So my thought is we will use this to regulate our pressure because we can't give it a 20 bar. That'll cause it to explode. We will give it, right initially, we'll give it 2 because that's what the tooltip says. So I guess it's when we place it down, low pressure side faces away from us. Good deal. So let's put it, I guess we just put it right here. Low pressure side is 2, or high pressure side is 2. So if we connect the low pressure side like this, I guess it needs at least 2 to function. 2 is the bare minimum. Go up to 5 then. There we go. Then it is drawing a vacuum on the low pressure side, I presume. Is it? Currently sucking at 2 milliliters a tick, yes. So it is drawing a vacuum very slowly. Let's get some speed upgrades and see if we can speed that up a little. We're all the way up to... Oh, you're air leaking. Wait, why do I have air leaking? Hold on. Do I have an extra valve on this? No. Where's air leaking from? Huh? Ah, why? This is complete. This is only 12 bar. So I guess air is being used. Wow, why is there such a huge pressure drop here? There's a pressure drop here because air is being used here? Hold on, let's set this to 4.9. Is that... Yeah, why is there such a huge pressure drop here? There's no air being used upstream anymore. Why do I suffer such a huge pressure loss downstream of the regulator? Do I suffer another air drop? I might have to move my regulators a little bit so that they're not on the main line, so that they're basically in parallel with it, not in series with it. Because my regulator here seems to be causing a large air pressure drop. We're going to ignore the sound of leaking air right now. If I put this here, we are sucking air faster. But yeah, it sounds like the leak is coming from the vacuum pump, doesn't it? If I get rid of this, the leaky sound goes away. Did I place it backwards, maybe? Apply pressurized air to the plus, and air at the minus will be sucked. Nope, backwards. Maybe we can't transfer negative pressure through pipes? No, we can. It says negative 0.01 bar. Alright, I'm going to do a little bit of debugulating. I just moved all my regulators 1 block over so that they're not on the main pressure line here, and it resulted in not having losses when going through the regulator. So I guess don't make sure your regulators are not in series with your pressure. Make sure they're parallel to it. Anyways, this functionally is unchanged. This here now we have a regulator bringing the, whatever the high pressure side down is. In fact, I think we might be using too much air. Currently sucking. Does it tell me how much air it's using? No. I think as you put more speed upgrades in it, it gets less efficient. But we are already down to negative 0.3 bar, and I think negative pressure is, well, I mean, it's just like positive pressure. It as you craft, I assume it like leaks air into the system, and it'll gradually you'll have to resuck the vacuum. So there's normally a 5-to-1 ratio. For every millibucket of vacuum you wish to suck, you have to input 5 millibuckets of air, although it does say as you add more speed upgrades it gets less efficient. I don't know what the ratio is as we, let's settle for this. We just need to make sure we don't exceed the ability of our compressor by, at least not by all too much. So 7 seems like a decent compromise. The lowest vacuum we can go is negative 1 bar. That is a vacuum. You can't get less than a vacuum. And we'll get there before we actually need to use the system. So the IO will end up being the same. But anyways, with this pressure tank set up now, let's try to make the die. So solitude die we can already make. It's not that die. This enhanced die. Enhanced die requires grains of piezoality, and that's really the only thing that we don't have. Oh wait, we can do this. It's just sag milling pulsating iron. For some reason I thought this was the grains that came from sag milling the ender crystal, but I guess I got it mixed up in my head and I didn't bother checking JAI. Then we can probably, I can just make some ender, or not ender crystals, vibrant crystals by hand. No, I've already forgotten what crystal it was. Pulsating crystals. I can make one. Okay, I'm gonna make some more alloys by hand. If we don't have to make the basic, or the, what are these? These are simple machines. We don't have to make the regular alloy smelters and can jump straight to the enhanced ones. I figure, why not? I'm still making alloys like this pulsating iron in our smeltery. It's faster in the smeltery than in the basic alloy smelter, but once we get the enhanced alloy smelters and some, oh look, I have a bunch of pulsating iron I made earlier. Thanks, Pastor Me. But once we get the enhanced alloy smelter, it'll be much, much, much faster to make alloys in the alloy smelter than the smeltery. Fortunately, no such shortcut exists for end steel. It has to be made in alloy smelter or one of the arc furnaces. No alloying it. So, yeah, making it in the alloy smelter, 20,000 RF at 15 a tick. So, what, like 1,300 ticks per ingot? Yep. With end steel ingots taking a minute each to make, and that's just the end steel step. I think the first enhanced machine I want to make is the alloy smelter. So, the first frame that gets made... Oh, wait. Why is the enhanced alloy smelter setting the... Oh, I put the recipes in the wrong one. Whoops. I meant to... I moved the recipe over, but I think I moved the wrong recipe over. I moved the industrial chassis, not the enhanced chassis. Give me my items back, please. This time, with the recipes in the right slot, you should dump the materials into this chest, insert them into this, which should craft it into that. Okay, so you saw it went from -1 bar to -0.99. I think that's just like it uses a little bit of air to do the craft. Anyways, because this is the first time crafting, we need to extract the item. Oops, I guess I turned it all the way into a final item, so I can't set the filter with it. Give me one more end steel ingot. Made another chassis with which we can now set the item filter. And now we never have to manually interact with this pressure chamber again. If I want more, I can just order more. At least until I run out of end steel. Cool. So now that we have the alloy smelter, and I also made a octadic capacitor, so that's level 3. How fast does it make it? 225 RF a tick. That's still not like crazy fast, but it's 15 times faster than the regular alloy smelter. That's a step up, right? So let's begin automating the use of machines now. I guess we just continue this line. I don't think I'm gonna leave a little bit room for a couple more pneumatic craft processes, like the assembly machines, but then we can put regular machines over here. I came to the nether to collect a little bit more of these grains of infinity. Pretty soon we'll be able to automate them, but I figured while I'm here and I see is that the ghast? I heard a ghast. I figured we may as well lasso it, unless it has since despawned. Well, looks like we lost our ghast. Never mind, I guess we're not lassoing ghast right now. I'm thinking I will upgrade from our ring, or whatever, our tiara. Where is our tiara? Oh, here it is. To the angel ring, which requires a lassoed ghast. Mostly just because it's a little annoying having to refill my mana band every hour or so. It goes through mana pretty darn quick, so but if the gas isn't here, I won't bother. To encode the dark steel and end steel recipes, I'm going to encode them in multiples of 16 and then put them both in this interface that has blocking mode on. That'll distribute it between these two alloy smelters, and then we'll pull the final product back in with item conduits. There's a slight risk if you just do this push-pull mode, where the output of one alloy smelter and the brief tick it spends in the interface's internal inventory before it gets ingested into the ME system, that it gets pulled out by the other alloy smelter. Additionally, if you just set it to push mode, the Alloy Smelter does not accept inputs on its push side, unless it's a push-pull side. So by doing this now, if I request, let's just start with dark steel. If I request 32 ingots of it, it should get distributed nicely between not both of them. You're on blocking mode. Why did blocking mode put all the... It should have put only one recipe in there. I suspect... 1 second. That there is... Oh, I have to check the configs out of game. 1 second. I think the problem stems from Trousers Applied Energistics implementing a different blocking mode, which I guess it works better with GregTech machines, but for some reason it doesn't seem to work right here with these. I think it does something like it ignores non-extractable slots. I don't know the exact details, but I switched the setting. Next time I restart my game, we'll see if it works. But even if all the requests are serviced by one Alloy Smelter, or if I request something like End Steel, which has 2 crafting steps, right? Well, if I didn't already have the dark steel, each of the crafting steps would end up serviced by one of the Alloy Smelters. But the Alloy Smelters aren't terribly slow, so I'm not worried about it. But yeah, this makes all of our Alloy Smelted ingots faster. I'm also going to add a couple more for like the sag mill and a couple other commonly used machines. It looks like for now, as far as Ender IO machines go, that's actually all we need. However, another thing we have access to with the industrial machine chassis is the thermal machine frame, and I definitely want some of these. So one of the first things I want to do with this is make the Magma Crucible. This is used to melt down materials. Do you take fused quartz by chance? And with this we can make pyrotheum, which supposedly generates in the nether, but I haven't been able to get any yet. So we have to make the gears the old-fashioned way. But with this we can get pyrotheum, which we can use to automate the production of Grains of Infinity quite easily. So far, all we have is a basic machine, which is a little bit on the slow side. A lot bit on the slow side. But upgrading it requires upgrade kits, and I guess we could get started on these pretty soon. We can make them. At least we can make up to reinforced tier for now. Any higher than that, we need a few more supplies. But first, I think I want to get my 1 bucket of pyrotheum to set up our Grains of Infinity. So in addition to that, we need a vacuum chest of some sort. How about just a vacuum chest? And some way to transfer the items interdimensionally. An ender chest should suffice for that. Making Grains of Infinity with pyrotheum is most easily done if you can get a lot of flat bedrock. And the roof of the nether seems to fit the bill. So place this down, let it spread. And in order to get the fire to spread to the bedrock, you want to leave a 1 block gap between the edge of the pyrotheum and the bedrock, and then just place a bunch of netherrack around it. I think it specifically has to be netherrack. And then after a couple moments, the fires will start spreading. So the fires will spread to the netherrack, and then I think back to the bedrock, and that's what causes this whole system to work. So what we want to do then is above it a little bit, place our vacuum chest. This will suck up the bits as they get produced, and then transport that into our ender chest. I'm going to use the same ender chest as I do for my mining, whatever that is, because that's already hooked up to pipe into a drawer system, which is exactly what I want here. So, I don't care for the netherrack here, but for that. But pretty soon, the fires on the bedrock in the nether do automatically go out, which is convenient, unlike the ones in the end. So I think this should work. I haven't tested it in this pack specifically, but fires on the bedrock work in the nether in this pack. So any second now, I expect to hear the sound of fire going out and Grains of Infinity being produced. Yep, there we go. There's one. Cool. So this isn't exactly the fastest way, but it's fully automated. So we literally just unload it. Oh, I should have considered building it. Good job, Jimmy. You span 4 chunks with this. Oh well. I guess we're loading all 4 of these chunks. It's not like there's much going on in these chunks, so no harm in loading more, but perhaps I could have done a better job of fitting it in one chunk. Maybe. My chunk generation, or my block generation isn't very chunk aligned here. But yeah, this system will produce grains of infinity for us. All we have to do now is go back to the overworld and add grains of infinity somewhere onto here. I think it's this set of drawers that's linked. So I think these compress. Excellent. This thing can hold infinite grains of infinity. For good measure, we'll even put a void upgrade on it. There's a couple other thermal expansion machines now I want to make. The compactor can make gears and plates a little bit faster than the current way we're making them, which is with the immersive engineering stamper thingy. It can't do everything the stamper can do, like the metal press. The metal press can make wires, which the compactor cannot, but this is just a generally speaking, easier to use machine. So let's set up a couple of these. The compactor needs to be at least hardened tier to have an augment slot for the gear making thing. And even at hardened tier with the gear making thing, it's not like the fastest gear maker. And let's check it out. Let's put the recipe in for one of the gears these kits use. So bronze gears as well as silver gears. Recipes go here, and let's request a couple of these kits. But yeah, just like this, it's probably actually slower than the metal press. However, this is basic, you know, as slow as it ever will be. Upgrading it like this makes it a little bit faster, and then there's augments above that, which can make it even faster. So let's make a number of these. Faster, faster. Faster. I just want to see how fast it is now. It's getting better, but when we eventually get it up to resident here, it'll be a lot faster. But on that note, I think we're out of time today, so we'll be back next time to continue our quests. In fact, I think today was... Well, I guess we didn't get any quests done last time, right? We got 1 quest done today. No, 2. Technically, we can do this one. You know what? Let's do that one real quick. Just so we can say we got 3 quests done today. Nope, just kidding. Can't do that yet. Next time. But yeah, I think we're actually getting reasonably close to the end of the nether part here. There's only... This here is the main quest line. There's like 5 quests left. Sure, some of these are more difficult than others, but whatever. The end is in sight. We'll get there soon. But yeah, that'll be for the next couple of videos, I think. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I hope to see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.